Okay, this is Jamie Price, and I am getting ready for the CWNP class. And here's a picture of the book that I'm using to study the terms, well, and a lot of other good stuff in the book. It is an older book, it's almost 2020, wow. But in any case, wanted to be true to, the people who wrote this book and help me out. So the whole purpose of these videos is to go over terminology and give myself another method for remembering it and listening to it and getting it in my head. But then once it's all pounded into my head, really being able to regurgitate it in a way that I'm able to piece things together and really create abundant, wonderful, successful, available wireless networks. So I'll keep the video showing on terms this time around, just because it may be nice to actually have the term read and see it. So in my first video, we covered, I probably should have numbered my video, the numbers and the standards. In this one, we're going through the glossary of the A terms. So, as we can see here, AAA is authentication, authorization, and accounting, is a security concept involved in providing the identity of supplicants, granting them authorization to network resources, and properly accounting for their activities. The term AAA server is often referred to as the authentication server in 802.11 process. A AAA client is a radius or authentication server term for each configured authenticator that is allowed to request authentications for supplicants. Acceptable Use Policy, AUP, is a legal document that is used to provide the operator of a network that outlines the restrictions that a user of the network must abide by. Access Category, a label for the set of contention parameters used by QoS stations to contend for prioritized access to the wireless medium. Access Control Gateways, devices that are commonly used in guest networks that force users to a captive portal or a web page to perform a set of actions that may eventually result in access to the network. Until access control is granted to guest users, all traffic is usually completely restricted only to access to the control gateway itself. While these devices may perform many different functions, they are referred to in this book as the device that performs at least this basic function. Access Controller, AC, the network entity in a centralized WAN WLAN architecture that provides wireless termination points, WTPs, with access to the centralized hierarchical network infrastructure in the data plane, control plane management, or a combination therein. Accounting involves the tracking use of network resources by users. Accounting is an important aspect of network security and is employed to keep a paper trail of what resource, when, and where, of who used it, what resource, when, and where. Active Discovery, the process used by 802.11 stations, STAs, to discover the access points and SSIDs by actively transmitting probe requests. Active Survey, a survey that is performed while maintaining full 802.11 based association bidirectional communication to an AP. Adjacent channel interference, interference caused by power from a signal on an adjacent channel. Admission control, a network requirement where admittance of new client or application sessions must be approved by an algorithm that measures the availability and usage of network resources. AES CCNP, the default encryption method defined under the 802.11i amendment. This method uses Advanced Encryption Standard, AES cipher. It uses 128-bit encryption key size and encrypts 128-bit fixed length blocks. An 8-byte message integrity check, a MIC, is used and is considered much stronger than the one used with TKIP or Temporal Key Management Protocol. AES CCNP is the default encryption method defined by the Wi-Fi process, Wi-Fi protected access to, WPA2. Aggregated MAC Protocol Data Unit, AMPDU, a physical layer convergence protocol, a PLCP, structure containing multiple MPDUs that can reach a length of 64 kilobytes as compared to the legacy frame size limit of 2,304 bytes. Aggregated MAC Service Data Unit, AMSDU, an MPDU structure containing multiple MAC service data units that can reach a length of 7,935 bytes. AIFS, AIFS, the interframe space used by QoS stations attempting to access the WLAN medium for data frame transmissions. I've got a whole nother page of A things and then some. That's okay. Here we go. Airtime fairness, the proprietary frame queuing and scheduling feature designed to supplement standardized QoS by regulating and fairly distributing the client device airtime usage. Airtime scheduling, an algorithm that determines the order in which data frames are given access to system resources. Amplifier saturation, an amplifier will provide linear gain up to a well-defined power limit. Above that limit, increasing the input will not only produce more output power, the input power at which the amplifier starts to decrease its gain is the point where the amplifier starts to go into saturation. Antenna diversity. Antenna diversity incorporates the use of more than one antenna element for single input, single output CISO clients. Antenna diversity helps mitigate the negative effects of multipath interference. Application-specific device, ASD. A hardware device designated for a single application usually runs a proprietary operating system. Arbitration, the process of a transmitter to gain control over the wireless medium. Association, after a station has authenticated with the access point, the next step is to associate with the access point. When the client station associates, it becomes a member of the basic service set. Association means the client station can send data through the access point and exchange the data with the distribution system medium. Asymmetric key encryption. The encryption method that is used with public key infrastructure (PKI) systems and means that the encryption key that is used to encrypt a message, a public key, is different than the one that must be used to decrypt the message, the private key. Attribute value pairs, AVPs. AVPs are data exchanges that are often used in radius combinations. AVPs are used to dynamically assign the WLAN users to roles, VLANs, and a variety of other attributes resulting from the client authentications. Authentication. The verification of user identity and credentials. Users must identify themselves and present credentials, which such as usernames and passwords or digital certificates. More secure authentication systems exist that require multi-factor authentication, where at least two sets of different credentials must be presented. Authentication server, AS. When the 802.1x EAP solution is deployed, an authentication server validates the credentials of the supplicant that is requesting access and notifies the authenticator that the supplicant has been authorized. The AS will maintain a user database or a proxy with an external user database to authenticate the user credentials. Authenticator. When 802.1x EAP solution is deployed, a device that blocks or allows the traffic to pass through its port is known as the authenticator. Authentication traffic is normally allowed to pass through the authenticator, whereas all other traffic is blocked until the identity of the supplicant, has been verified. Typically, authenticators are switches, routers, access points, or controllers. Authorization, the act in granting access to the network and resources and services. Autonomous WLAN architectures. The WLAN access network architecture family in which all the logical functions, including both IEEE 802.11 and CAPWAP function, wherever applicable, are implemented within the WTP framework. The WTP in such networks are also called standalone APs or FAT APs because these devices implement the full set of functions that enable the standalone devices to operate without any other support from the network. Availability, a term used to represent uptime of systems.